Dear Aunt Flo, it has been 114 years since you have left us, and a lot has happened since then. I write to tell you about one of your fallen nephews and how he has jerked the nursing community. His name is Charles Cullen. I know you might be saying to yourself, Charles, but that is a man's name. You're quite right, Aunt Flo. Since you left, we also have male nurses now. We even have different nurses with pronouns. But try to keep up. I will tell you about that later. I do not have much time, as the Adon is wearing her loafers today. That means she will be making rounds on the units like a police in the donut shop. Aunt Flo, can you believe that beneath the facade of a caregiver lurked one of the most enigmatic and chilling serial killers in American history? He is dubbed the Angel of Death. His story is a dark journey through the mindscape of a killer, cloaked in the garb of a healer from our community. You taught us to be compassionate, and yet your nephew Charles Cullen morphed into a harbinger of death. His killing spree went undetected for nearly 2 decades. Charles Cullen was born into a seemingly ordinary family in West Orange, New Jersey in 1960. But the ordinary was quickly overshadowed by tragedy and instability. His father died when Charles was just an infant, plunging the family into emotional and financial turmoil. Raised by his mother in a struggling household, the scars of childhood were deep. Cullen's early years were marked by frequent moves and a palpable sense of disconnection from his peers. His mother's untimely death during his teenage years was a blow from which he never fully recovered, Aunt Flo. Observers noted early signs of psychological distress, a withdrawn demeanor, a fascination with the macabre, and episodes of alarming behavior. These formative years, steeped in loss and isolation, perhaps set the stage for the darker path Cullen would eventually tread. The impact of these early experiences on his psyche cannot be understated, shaping a man who would later be capable of such inconceivable acts. After high school, Charles Cullen found his calling in nursing. He enrolled in the Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in Montclair, New Jersey. His decision to enter the healthcare field was, at first glance, a bid to make a positive impact. However, his career was anything but typical. Cullen's pattern of employment was erratic. He worked at 9 hospitals across New Jersey and Pennsylvania over a 16-year period. His tendency to switch jobs frequently raised eyebrows, yet it was not enough to trigger a deeper investigation. Early signs of his troubling behavior, unexplained patient deaths, and oddities in medication records were often dismissed or overlooked. This early stage of his career was crucial. It was when Cullen learned to navigate and manipulate the intricacies of hospital systems, a knowledge he would later use with lethal precision. Charles Cullen's killing spree is chilling in both its duration and the sheer number of victims. His first known murder occurred in 1988, not long after he began his career in nursing. Over the next 16 years, he claimed dozens of lives, using his position of trust and access to powerful medications to administer lethal doses. Cullen worked in various critical care and cardiac units, where he had unrestricted access to life-ending drugs. His method of choice was often digoxin, a heart medication, which he administered to unsuspectingly overdose his patients. I am not sure if you had digoxin back then, Aunt Flo, but we use this to improve strength and efficiency of the heart. It controls the rate and the rhythm for better circulation. It may cause the heart to beat slower than normal, even leading up to cardiac arrest. Just imagine the power he felt playing with this drug. Each hospital stay represents a series of missed opportunities and tragic outcomes as Cullen moved from one facility to another, each time starting anew, as previous suspicions and allegations failed to follow him in any meaningful way. The path to uncovering Charles Cullen's horrific acts was fraught with challenges. Initial suspicions about Cullen arose from fellow nurses and hospital staff who noticed irregularities in patient medications and records. However, these were often dismissed by higher-ups or lost in bureaucratic red tape. The breakthrough came when one of your courageous nurse nieces, alarmed by the unexplained death of a patient, decided to act. She pushed for a thorough review of Cullen's shifts and the corresponding patient deaths. This led to a more focused investigation, which revealed a pattern consistent with deliberate harm. Law enforcement was slow to connect the dots, partly due to the scattered nature of the incidents across multiple jurisdictions and hospitals. However, once they did, the case moved quickly. Hospital administrations, previously reluctant to admit any wrongdoing or systemic failures as usual, were now under the microscope, finally aiding in the investigation. Understanding the mind of Charles Cullen is a complex and unsettling endeavor. Aunt Flo, we might need to write to Aunt Dorothy for some help on this one. Psychological analysts suggest that Cullen might have suffered from a pathological need for control, a trait that found a dark outlet in the life and death power he wielded over his patients. Some experts believe his actions were a twisted form of mercy killing, a way to end what he perceived as patient suffering, though this theory is contentious. Others suggest a more sinister pleasure in the act of killing itself, a godlike thrill in deciding fate. Cullen's psychological profile is compared with other notorious healthcare serial killers. Sorry to drop all this on you, Aunt Flo, but I have many more letters to write. This will reveal a pattern of deep-seated issues of inadequacy and a profound need for recognition among your nieces and nephews, often going unmet in their personal and professional lives. This need, combined with a clinical environment that provided both means and opportunity, creates a lethal cocktail. The true weight of Charles Cullen's crimes is perhaps best understood through the voices of those he hurt the most, the families of his victims. Personal testimonies from these families paint a heart-wrenching picture of loss and betrayal. One family speaks of a vibrant mother and grandmother admitted to the hospital for a routine procedure, never to return home. Another recounts the sudden and inexplicable decline of a father previously on the road to recovery. Each story is a reminder of the lives snuffed out and the gaping wounds left behind in the fabric of families. The emotional and psychological scars borne by these families continue to resonate long after the headlines fade. Charles Cullen's ability to continue his deadly activities almost unchecked throws a stark light on the systemic failures within the healthcare institutions he infiltrated. His case exposed critical vulnerabilities in the hiring practices, staff monitoring, and internal reporting systems of hospitals. Analysis shows that a lack of comprehensive background checks, inadequate staff supervision, and a culture that often prioritized institutional reputation over patient safety allowed Cullen to exploit the system repeatedly. But all they want to do is give us unfair patient to nurse ratios and unpaid lunch breaks. Even more disturbingly, when suspicions about his actions arose, the response was often woefully inadequate, with concerns dismissed or whistleblowers silenced. The trial of Charles Cullen was a media spectacle, drawing attention not only to the gruesome nature of his crimes, but also to the broader implications for the healthcare industry. In 2006, Cullen was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole after pleading guilty to the murders of 29 patients. Though experts believe the actual number of victims could be much higher. During the trial, Cullen's lack of remorse and erratic behavior were unsettling. His statements in court provided little in the way of explanation or solace to the families of the victims. The legal outcomes, while providing a measure of justice, left many questions unanswered. The aftermath of the trial saw a push for more stringent laws governing hospital operations and the reporting of suspicious activities by healthcare professionals. Cullen's case became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the potential consequences of systemic oversight failures. The chilling saga of Charles Cullen brings with it crucial lessons and a mandate for continuous vigilance in the healthcare sector. Since the case, there has been a significant overhaul in how patient safety is managed and how staff are monitored in hospitals. Hospitals are now more rigorous in conducting background checks, and there is a greater emphasis on the mental health and well-being of healthcare workers themselves, or so they want us to believe. Reporting mechanisms for suspicious activities have been strengthened, and there's a growing culture of accountability and transparency. But this is all on the lower level of the totem pole, Aunt Flo. We need to know how much theses executives who have no healthcare experience and knowledge make yearly. One of them just bought a jet the other day. Speaking of which, my hospital is about to go through a merger, so I might be out of a job soon, Aunt Flo. All they do is merge and cut staff, yet the workload is increased, but that is for another time. As I write, the loafer-wearing Adon is in the lunchroom reminding us about the allotted break time. I just lost my appetite. Until I write again, your nurse niece, Penny. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell Aunt Flo your story.